HT. Chapter 1. The Weight of Inheritance. The bunker was cold, a subterranean echo chamber, a place where light and hope seemed to obey a strange form of entropic decay. For nearly a year, this damp, dark hole was only stable orb. Ellen Cabrera knew she was the rightful president of Verde, yet she existed in a different defiance of all political views, laws, a fugitive form of dictator President Velasco. Elena's mind was her most powerful instrument, a praise mechanism tuned by her background as an industrial engineer. Her life was built on rules and facts, on the mutable consistency of the governed, both steel and society. Elena's father, Alejandro Cabrera, was a ghost hunting his own home, still alive but under house arrest. Alejandro had not inherited wealth. He had constructed it. He had started on a factory floor taught by an old immigrant engineer that success was rooted in precision and honesty, principles and fundamentals as gravity. Alejandro taught Elena two vital lessons. 1. The flawless blueprint. Always design your plan for the moment of when the universe tries to tear it apart. You must have a backup. This was the genesis of the actus of dignity of work. Never forget where the steel comes from. You must fight for the dignity of the common worker. The lesson, a deep moral force compelled her to start the Catalina Institute for Street Children. She saw Velasco theft not just as a political crime, but as a violation of fundamental focus of fairness. Her greatest fact of acts was a tiny encrypted hard drive strapped beneath her belt. It proved she won. She was singularity of truth. Velasco desperately wanted to collapse, but her emotional cost was a black hole in her heart. Her children, her love for them was gravitational force that kept her soul intact. If she failed, the failure would be a vacuum of exile. She had to reach Giovanni to deploy her weapon. 2. The debt of the fire chief. 300 miles away, in a tiny Miami office, Commander Jack Grizzly Thorne felt the cold reality of the universe. His mask, comfort, presence, and calm eyes were deceptive. He carried a deep spiritual quantum entanglement with loss. Thorne ran the last harbor. He was driven by a debt incurred not by a battlefield but a heart of a great city. His mentor was 9/11 Fire Chief. A man taught him that true courage is willingness to defy the law of averages, to show up when the probability of survival was zero. On September 11th, Thorne was a young responder digging in the dust. He couldn't save his fire chief or the faces of pleading from the smoke. When left, too many people should ever feel that alone. The law of humanity, compassion, which Thorne chose to obey over the law of self-preservation. Every rescue attempt was an achieved attempt, pour energy to gain something back, absolute loss. Ellen Cabrera was a beacon of potential truth. This was the most critical rescue of his life. Riggs, the time is now, Thorne commanded. This was the slowly twirling, wispy, unabsolved mass. The American Navy sensors. If we look fast, we trigger their defense mechanism. We must defy detection. He picked up the satellite phone for days. A small window of vast undertaking was ready to pay his debt, turning regret into action, a fundamental conversation of energy. Chapter 2. The Storm and the Code. The land was a brutal series of space and time dispersed each of the 10 checkpoints for Elena to hold her breath and showing her potential of time. She was finally reached sea. She thought she was over. But with the storm, terrifying waves smashed to the small knife, the La Lorena, destroying the navigation system. The boat was adrift, subject only to the chaos of nature. Elena was terrified, but she summoned the structure of her fatherly training. She was focused on the acts of the number of referrals truth. She would not let this singularity of democracy be swallowed by the ocean. Her duty was force more powerful than the storm anchored her. Abroad, the wanderer throne watched the revenized point despair in the storm of the ghost of 9/11 whispered failure is inevitable. I will not leave her. Thorne swore he refused to obey the dark law of probability. The spawn trawler heading toward the energy coast, a maneuver that defied logic beyond his deepest code. When two vessels find each other, the chaos was absolute. The collision of paranoia was defining. Their own flashed a signal, a warned signal flashed back. Thorne froze, realizing the danger was total. He was ready to pull the trigger when the voice raw and tried to cut through the noise. "It's me, Elena. We're taking on water." Thorne lowered his rifle immediately, relief of powerful liberating force. He hauled her aboard. Elena was soaked, but her first desperation of words was "Actus." Thorne was struggling to her absolute refusal to yield her fear. He felt her debate of past momentarily lifted was a wondering human physics. "We have her," Throne confirmed, setting on the land zone. "The Iron Butterfly is now secure." Chapter 3. The Sabotage Equation. The Gulfstream's 650G climbed high, providing a brief period of relevant time away from danger. Elena felt a flicker of hope, but Ambassador Kalina reported Olesko labeling Elena a criminal and was a reminder even a high altitude was they were still bound by political forces. Then the piercing alarm, fuel short, sabotage. Thorne confirmed the horrifying truth. Someone compromised the manifest. We had been forced to land in Morocco. The betraying painful. Elena faced her Thorne, her eyes redacting clear prose. "They calculated this move. This was expected us to panic, but we will not, Commander. You will lead this plane. I will lead the defense. We must move forward." Thorne admired her compromise, descending forward. The descent was a terrifying drop, but Elena was ready to meet the enemy on their chosen terrain. Chapter 4. The Final Climb. The moment the plane touched down, the night exploded black. SUVs surged onto the tarmac. Thorne's team moved to the predictable precision of well-oiled gears. Thorne shielded Elena, the memory of his fire chief fueling his every move. He would not allow the forces of darkness to win this final battle. Elena's assets, the ambush located escape route. They wanted the data. "We run to the mountains to the Spanish jurisdiction." Thorne nodded. The flight had failed. The final solution was brutal endurance. The abomination, the SUV, was beginning the agonizing ascent up the rocky slope. The climb was a grueling test. Thorne pushed his body to its absolute limits, finding strength only in Elena's unwavering, silent resolve. The helicopter's noise became defiant. Thorne struggled with the dead satellite phone. All his professional experience, all his planning was useless against the final desperation act of force. Elena's reaching the final ridge and saw a small weathering stone pillar marking a border into Spain. Landed, she saw the sunrise beginning, a beautiful reminder that the Times was moving forward, carrying possibility. Just as the helicopter spotlight hit them, Thorne and Elena threw themselves across the line. The helicopter froze. Morocco's guards and Velasco's agents stood motionless as they were stopped by an invisible but absolutely forced the law of intentional sovereignty. Ambassador Kalina stood. The result of this Spanish side held upon diplomat seal. The territory is protected. You cannot violate the barrier. Elena stood tall, clutching the axe. She had survived. She had protected the truth. Her father's lessons was complete. Thorne watched her heavy debate as she past finally paid in full. He bought a life out of darkness, obeying the light, the highest law of human duty. As the sun bathed the summit in the light, Elena Cabral, the Iron Butterfly, was finally free to achieve her orbit in Geneva. The forces of chaos will be defined by the price plan and an unstoppable will. Share to comment, like, and subscribe.